Woo! Prophet Station Radio. Talk to the Stones. All right, guys. Well, we're here. We watched The Matrix. Last episode we did simulation theory, and that primed us, that prepped us for The Matrix.
I hadn't seen it in so long. Like, some of the concepts that it really brought into pop culture are discussed ad nauseum. That's mostly how I've interacted with it since it came out. I forgot that it just kicked so much ass. And I also, like, having not seen it, like, maybe I knew that it was made in 99. I forgot to what extent it was a turn of the millennium movie, because it was
Right.
still, like, it wasn't really a 90s in terms of the cinematography and the scale and everything. It was like the turning point into the new millennium in many, many ways, but it's like still a 90s movie. Yeah, it just
crazy,
kicked a
man.
lot more ass than I remembered.
It was like so good in every aspect and every scene that it kind of becomes like a little bit of magic in how the effect that it has. And it's like, shit, maybe it's a lot more difficult, because I don't know how you make something as good as The Matrix, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, in one sense, it makes sense that that is the time period when that kind of network of ideas would become on filmmakers' minds, but also become attractive to audiences. But it's also like the perfect time for that movie to come out.
Yeah.
The .com bubble is just happening, and people are just starting to understand that the internet is going to change every layer of society forever.
There's so much that has to be on the table in the pop culture and in the like collective psyche for that movie to work.
Yeah.
Because this isn't like a movie that a streamer puts out and is trying to activate some niche of the audience. This was back when you had real blockbuster movies. This was serious money was put into this film, and it's not trying to be niche. It's trying to be a giant blockbuster, and it succeeded. There were bullet time jokes in every single comedy film for the next 10 years after this. Like, it entered the zeitgeist, but like you have to teach the audience. Everyone in society is expected to go here and make sense of a film that is touching on the idea of simulation, like not just like the simulation we went into in our simulation episode, which is available here on YouTube, but also like a French philosopher Baudrillard's idea of simulation. And like you have to kind of grok Marxist theory a little bit, because there's like a socio-political element to it, and you have to understand this idea of consciousness and jumping back and forth between realities. You have to understand AI in the late 90s, which wasn't, it's not like now. It was like, dude, the amount of shit they are expecting you to take on, it's so ambitious, and it does it. They fucking do it.
And then on top of all of that too, it's like watching it now, looking back, man, it fucking hits it out of the park, because like so much of that shit is still wildly relevant today. Dude, yeah, I mean, incredible.
Yeah, and to compare it favorably to a couple of other films that we've discussed in other episodes that are also available on YouTube, namely The Fifth Element and
Event Horizon.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, both of those, like my review included like a caveat that they just did not really have to explain what the mythology was for the premise, whereas The Matrix did have that burden, and they succeeded at doing it at a level that the Midwestern farmer, for example, who doesn't have a personal computer, could understand it when they went to their local big screen.
You know what I kind of in that vein of thought, I heard that they had initially, instead of the battery idea, like that the robots are using humans as batteries. Instead of that, they had a neural network that the humans' brains were being used for processing power.
For
Oh.
computation, sure.
But whenever they took it to the producers, they were like, people weren't literate enough to really understand something like that in the eyes of the producers. So they were like, no, let's do something a little bit simpler. So they came up with the idea of like a battery or something.
That actually makes a lot more sense because we don't have to worry about this really happening. AI would just go thermal energy.
Well,
And-
yeah, there's so many other sources,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
and there's so much risk keeping humans around.
Sure,
So-
and you can't grow an entire human just feeding them with dead humans. Like,
Well,
it's-
yeah, I mean,
we're
it's
not
like
that efficient. Sure,
it's gonna
yeah.
use more resources, you would
But,
think,
yeah.
than it produces.
Yeah, but using them for the computational power of the brain is a lot better
Right.
a premise. Yeah.
I did not realize that it was the original poster was the blue, because that green is like, I guess they've made several after the original Matrix. So, and then the green became more popular, but seeing the blue was like, oh my God, I haven't seen that in so long, but
Yeah.
even whenever I saw the poster for it, I kind of forgot that the blue was even really part of it, because that green is such a like factor throughout the whole thing. Like whenever they have Neo, they get him at work and then they have him in some sort of like conference room, or maybe it's at some police station or whatever. You see green all across their faces, and it's like shine, and the room is kind of green, and it's like there's this whole atmosphere of green being in the Matrix. I mean,
And the code, like it starts,
Yes.
the whole thing starts with the code, that
Right.
raining code that's in green, and it's in kanji too. It's like numbers and kanji, and it's just like so mystical looking to an American in the late 20th century. Yeah, the green, man, the green. You can't think about the Matrix without thinking in terms of green. So I looked up some of the interviews with the production designer and cinematographer to figure out how they achieved the green. Because yeah, like you can color time it, which is essentially a process back when it was film. For those of you who aren't familiar with that term, color timing is like you have a negative black and white image, and then you're shooting blue, red, and green light, the three primary colors of light, through it, and you can time that to kind of change the balance. So you can cool it down by reducing red, and you can heat it up by increasing red and reducing blue, and you can make things greener by just increasing green. So that is something you can do. And nowadays with color grading on any computer program, it's like the easiest thing to do, which has kind of fucking ruined a lot of movies, if you ask me. Like just the amount they're just blasted with color grading. But so on the production side, they made all of these choices, like all of this green everywhere, and then also they greenwashed everything in the lighting. So before even going to post-production, it's very green in the Matrix world. So they kept it green in the Matrix, and they removed as much blue as possible, even removing the sky from shots and stuff, so that you just had like no blue in the Matrix. And then when you cut to the quote unquote real world on the Nebuchadnezzar, it's all blue. So then it's like, you don't even have to establish where you're at. Your mind instantly knows if you're on board or if you're in the Matrix. I thought that was just so interesting that they, it's like this time when they have digital techniques. They use plenty of them in this movie, but it's a lot like the first Lord of the Rings, where it feels so real, because so much of it is still practical. It's actually, a lot of this is done. It's real stuff.
I noticed when he was emerging from the pod that any movie today would have used a CG background, but the background of all the towers was painted, and just little like things like that. Because it was a '90s movie. But yeah, and thinking about the color choices are just interesting on a conceptual level because um I guess green in the Matrix sort of has the like you saw the code is in green and a lot of terminals are in green, a lot of them are in white too. But then the choice for the real world unquote um was blue. And at first I thought that was kind of odd because the real world does not have the sky, which is our like most common source of blue, but it also doesn't have green. It doesn't have the plant's eyes either. So I came around on that. But it did get me wondering about um, technology on board. There were a lot of things. This is more about like plot holes and stuff like that. But it would take a lot to keep a human healthy and alive underground. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't actually when I read uh, in the document you prepared for us, Jonathan, about the color tinting in the two different settings. I I hadn't like cognitively made that distinction, but I was processing the film using that, so it
Mhm.
was working on me
Right.
subconsciously.
So what are the other ways that they're achieving the style? Because when you see it, it's immediately recognizable as the peak of like turn of the millennium fashion and style. And I think one of the big things that they do, which can be lost on audiences now, especially when we were teens in the aughties, anime was so ubiquitous, and it has remained Asian media, like K-pop and anime and Pokemon. This is like what all kids grow up on now. But I think that the influence of Asian imagery is so important to understand how the Matrix looked futuristic. Like they use kanji in the coding, so it like looks, to an American audience, it just looks strange, and sort of complex in a way. But then also there's kung fu and there's wire fu. Like the fight scenes are all um Asian, and there's just they do stuff in Chinatown, and there's just this kind of um yeah, Asian influence fluttering through it that I think makes it feel like stylish. And like futuristic or something. And I'm not racist, by the way.
Just clarify.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I was refreshing my memory. Keanu Reeves, he's born in Beirut, actually. I didn't know that, but his mother was
Really?
English. His father was Hawaiian, of Hawaiian, Chinese, English, and Portuguese descent. I knew that he was in part Asian, and I thought like that. He as the lead, like
Whoa, yeah.
he's just a little bit Asian flavored enough in appearance that it really goes along with kind of the um
Dude,
aesthetic of the
totally.
film.
His
And
jeans are like the same jeans in the aesthetic of the movie. It's like pretty
right.
much Hollywood, but a little Chinese, a little indigenous. It's like a little, yeah.
Right.
Whoa, far out.
To the Asian thing, I do find it kind of interesting just connecting it to another movie that deals with the idea of the future or time in general. Um, I'm thinking of Cloud Atlas, where they have Neo
Oh.
Soul as being a major, area or setting in the movie. And there is something about Asia that I think feels futuristic and sort of paradoxically. I think it's because Asia has, as a civilization, been around for so long, that somehow it
Whoa.
it feels like it will be projected into the future no matter what. But that's
Whoa.
that's just thought.
That's such a good catch. It's like there's a Lindy effect where because it's older than our civilization, we presume it will at some point come back and eat us, and like it will last longer.
Right.
Sure, yeah. There's a through thread to antiquity, yeah,
Right.
which America 250 doesn't have yet.
Woo!
Yeah.
Not yet. Oh yeah. Okay. So here's another thought I had about how you make it look. The Matrix world looks futuristic. In the Matrix, it's slightly. Have you all ever seen Brazil?
Yeah.
By Terry Gilliam.
Sure.
Yeah. Where it's kind of it's a mishmash of all major aesthetic trends in the West through the 20th century. There's a little bit of it. They don't turn the dial up too high. If they had done it too high, it would have been kitsch, and that's kind of off the.
That was like the Fifth
The
Element.
Matrix is cool. Yeah, right. The Fifth Element is more kitsch, and could do that. Yeah, this is cool. So they didn't crank the knobs up too high, but you notice the car they drive has suicide doors, and it's like,
Right.
yeah, it's like it's an old car, and a lot of the places they meet in are kind of rotten. Like even the place where you get the red pill and the blue pill is this kind of rotten out old building. They find themselves in old dilapidated buildings a lot, actually. And even the heart of the city motel where the or hotel where it begins and ends, that's a real torn down building, and it even says free TV, which is like such like an anachronism even in the 90s. So I'm just thinking about this, like by mixing these 20th century, these different codes. Oh yeah, and the Oracle lives in like a 70s apartment, the kind of apartment if you were an adult in the 90s your grandma lived in when you were a kid. So it's like using nostalgia, and there's just all of these things really come together to me to signal it's taking a post position. It's if you were to look back at this time in general and you were just putting things together, and you would get this sort of hazy mismatch of the late 20th century. That's a theory I have on how they achieved it.
Some future shit.
Yeah. Dude, the Matrix rules so much, by the way.
Bro, I mean, as I was watching it, I was like, holy shit. Like, I'm thinking in my mind always the Lord of the Rings is the pinnacle of cinema, and like literally you can't even compare anything to it. And I'm not saying the Matrix is better, but it's like, well, fuck, this has got to at least be up there. It's got to be close, man.
It's like soul crushing in a way how much better it is than any movie that's come out in the last like 20 years.
God, man.
It's so demoralizing to watch these old movies and be like, even the CG in this we can just slide right back. It looks better than any fucking movie made since.
Sure.
It's crazy.
And it's used even like more judiciously. It's not just thrown around, and they're just putting it here and there, and it just is so sick. But now you would think they've had enough practice to understand where it's going to play well and not. And nothing even comes close, man.
Sure, yeah. I mean, and part of it, like, I thought it was the best looking scene in the entire film, but to return to when he was first emerging from the pod and they used the painted background of all of the additional pods. Yeah. That's it very easily could have done it with CG, but that's just, a specific example of them using it judiciously and being like, oh, this would look better if we had someone do an oil painting of what this scene looks like. And they did, and it looked amazing.
Their decisions to make things look cool, and I don't really know if it's realistic or not, but it's cool. Those are off the charts here. When the helicopter runs into the building and there's this giant ripple in the glass, and then when it goes back to flat, it shatters. That is one of the coolest things I have ever and will ever see.
Yeah, I wrote down that was the best I just said a different one was, but that was so well done, so well
Well,
done.
and then they echoed that minutes later whenever Neo goes into the agent and like literally just Super Saiyans out of it, and then boom, the whole fabric of the reality has to adjust to that, dude. Ugh.
Yeah. And he
Ugh.
flexes, he
Yeah,
bows
yeah,
out, and then the whole hallway.
yeah.
Oh man, that's good.
Damn, yeah, that's sick as fuck. Also, I've always grown up thinking how awesome it was when Neo is like, it's right before he does the hand motion. He's
That he learned
fighting
from
the
The Rock
agent.
and that The Rock invented.
He gets up and he like boom flexes while also getting in his pose for fighting, and then the dust from all the subway shit just comes flying off. Ugh, so tight.
Dude. Bill Pope, the cinematographer, I think it's like part of him. He was like an early music video guy. Like before MTV, they had these movies that would play at nightclubs that he would be the cinematographer for. So then when MTV came along, he had a decade of just like getting a bajillion at bats at creating stylish moments, because that's like, you know, a music video is like, let's use the latest techniques, let's be very like off the wall and innovative and be very cool the whole time. So I think that there's like that DNA in there. But then also I read that the Wachowskis had to hire a comic book artist friend to actually draw out the whole thing, because they didn't really like the way storyboards are done, and no one in Hollywood understood what the fuck their script was. Like they just didn't know how to read it. Like it was so forward thinking. So then they had to make a comic book to put in someone's hand and say, this is what the movie is. And I think those two things in the DNA go together to create this real appreciation for what a really cool moment would be. How to really hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah, I think that you know, they're having to hire someone to write a comic book like that goes back to my earlier point where I said like the premise and the concept and then the execution, but like they were really wedded in a way that despite being so I mean, there were certainly a lot of things that led to the concepts of the film. There wasn't really anything inherently new. There was a new like scenario and stuff, but the way that it was wedded to the film, again, with my having been with the amount of time it's been since I've seen the film, I had forgotten how good the film aspect of it is, and I've been interacting with the concept, and it's like seeing that those really were wedded so effectively and so deeply.
I mean, so here's the thing that I keep thinking is like, okay, this is really not lucky, but it's just the timing of when it came out was really optimal. And it had me wondering, like, how much was the digital world, which we are all now very well accustomed with because it, like, we're totally immersed in it. Like, how much had that been a part of people's daily life at, 98 was when they were shooting it. It came out in 99. Like, people didn't have, I mean, I can't remember being that young necessarily. So I don't know, like, did we have AOL then?
We had
Or
AOL. We had like
yeah.
I
Okay.
remember it was still something where if someone had a computer, that is not a given that they had a computer at their house. And then if they did, sometimes you would hear that they had internet and you'd be like, oh, sick. Okay, y'all have internet. It was that kind of thing where not everyone had a computer and not all computers were on the internet. It was like,
Right.
yeah, but there was for already for a couple decades, there was this growing anxiety that you can see in the culture around the amount of images and media that was coming up, because in a one person's lifetime, they had went from I could go to see a movie in the building for movies to that's in my living room on 3 channels that don't even broadcast all day long to now there's 100 channels that broadcast all of the time, and there's all these magazines and all these, everything proliferating. So I think there is, and then there's on like an internet level, there's credit cards start being used in the 70s, I think. Is that when there's like the dining card that has started? But anyways, the like data starts moving onto the internet, like government information, and it starts to be where if you can hack, you can steal people's identity.
Yeah.
You have like, Sandra Bullock was in that movie The Net that is like 94, but it like plays with all that
Really?
paranoia around everything is online.
Yeah.
I think it was 94. Maybe that's too early.
Yeah, and another thing, I just looked it up. The theatrical release was the 31st of March in 99. So this was like just when Y2k started to
Right.
be in the newspaper. I mean, like weeks, if not, months, did people become aware that not only there's like this kind of simple software coding issue, but like they could have, it could cause the end of the world. So like for a lot of people who maybe live in rural places or are in the homes that don't have computers or don't have the internet, still being told by the newspaper that computers might cause the world to end on New Year's, like, that brought a new sense of immediacy to a lot of people that maybe were trying to stay out of the whole situation.
And then there's also enough internet that people who are really into it, there's enough internet now where they can be like really online. Okay, it's not just some Usenet forums. It's like there's now a lot of websites, and it's so you have people like Neo who kind of represent the new human who has this new relationship to technology.
Right. Yeah, from devices that you could have at home. I mean, people have been programming since the 50s probably. I should know, but but as far as like a teenage or a guy in his 20s who taught himself on his personal computer, that's a relatively new person to be at that time. And it's not as, anyone can download the Reddit app on their cell phone nowadays, but there were forums, but not everyone was on them.